So why do you like, I was reading a statistic like there's a lot of companies that reach 1 million, 10 million in revenue, but very few get to exceed that. So a lot of times, they grow a bit, they have traction, new product, better product than what's available in the market, but they never really grow to that huge level. Why do you think people like end up stalling at some point? They plateau and then they're never really able to reach the 100 mil or unicorn. What do you think happens at that stage?
It's hard, man. I mean, there's so many. I think that there's so many things that can go wrong. I mean, number one, like not every startup will reach, a bit like a unicorn status for $1 billion. Like they won't, just because like that's just like the market, like the GDP doesn't support that. It doesn't, it just doesn't. And so like some products will grow, but every product has a ceiling, and you can find ways to, increase that ceiling, and I think that's really good. And so, at some point, as you get closer to the ceiling, uh, the speed of development or the speed of growth slows. That's kind of how it runs. And so then you need to like accelerate. You either raise the ceiling by creating new products, by finding new customers, by increasing your TAM, um, or something else. And so you find a lot of companies that pivot at that point, or that they do something else so that they can increase that, And so yeah, I don't think like a unicorn status is for everybody, and it doesn't need to be. I mean, companies can be very, very, very much successful in the $1 million if they're small and nimble. In fact, I would probably much rather to have a small company with just a few people that are committed and not be a $1 billion company. But when you're there, like there's other things that play. Like you have more people, there is more bureaucracy, there's other things. So like making any one of these changes becomes that much harder. And so in order for all of this stuff to work, not only do you need to be smart or be like clear enough to say this is the right product to build so that I can increase my market share. Uh, but also, like the company as a whole has to work in such a way that it can make those changes and make them in a successful manner, which is not easy, especially as you grow.
You think if I'm a founder and I'm starting a company, I would think that I would be hyper optimistic. Like I wouldn't tell myself, you know what, the best I can do is 20 million, so let me get as close as possible. Do you feel like it's a wake-up call when people are into it for 1, 2 years and they're like, you know what, there's not much we can do, we have to pivot to something else? Or do people know from the get-go? I mean, with the companies that you've worked with, for example, are people aware of such a ceiling, or are they just hoping to keep growing and growing? Like, what's the mentality with those kind of founders?
It's like founders are their own species, and that's really good. And so I don't think that they should have. I don't think that they should have that mentality. It's like this is how far I can grow. Because technically there is generally like there's no ceiling because one can create value out of nothing. Like humans have done that. We create value out of nothing. There's nothing, and then suddenly there's more. Think of LLMs or ChatGPT. That wasn't a thing before, but this created all this new revenue and new businesses that didn't exist before. And so hence, the overall money and value that goes around the world increase. And we didn't really have to do. It's not like we traded one for the other. We just made that out of ideas. And so I think the founder should have that mentality. However, when you're planning and when you're thinking, well, what do I do now? Like you have to think of reality and like, okay, what do I have right in front of me? There's like a long-term vision of what you want to do as a founder. But then there's also like reality of like, okay, cool. Like I'm trying to hit this number by 3 months from now. What are all my variables? And so I think like, what one of the critical things about being a founder, I find that or a good founder is that ability to like zoom in and zoom out, and like you constantly have to do that, and like look at the look at the macro, and then come in and like look at the micro and work with the micro teams and like one-on-ones, but also like step back and work with the investors, and look at the entire ecosystem and see kind of what role you'll play or what role your company will play, and whether or not the strategy fits. And so, I think that that's kind of the, the founder mentality or like the founder mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm getting what you're saying. Like, you need to understand how your company functions, like in a very detailed way, but you should also have your eye out on larger strategies. So, where are you heading? Where are you going? I think that's what they say about Elon. They say the reason why he's so successful is because he gets into like the very deep technical stuff in his teams, identifies bottlenecks, but at the same time he has this like gigantic vision, obviously like going to different planets and stuff. But it's interesting that you say that. So a founder, a technical founder is forever technical in some sense. You can't be hands off, delegate everything, and be like, okay, you know what? They're gonna take care of everything in terms of how to build the application, and all I have to do is like find partners and investors and stuff like that. You have to keep both hats on.
Yeah, I think that that's where, I mean, obviously there are like at some point when you grow big enough, at some point you have to like pass the ball, right? And so like I don't know, think of I mean I don't think it's why I don't think we can talk about Elon, because I think Elon is more of like a once in 100 years that you'll find like people that can do that. Obviously, not everybody can do that, and we haven't. So there are a few people that have accomplished that, but you can think of like more Jeff Bezos, amazing founder. But he doesn't run the day-to-day, or he didn't run up until the end, like the day-to-day operations of Amazon. He did, however, work like really closely with, his leadership team, that share the same mentality, and they met and they worked together as a team so that they can do more and delegate it, and work with each of the organizations. Um, but that's at a when you're at that scale. I think for startups in general, I think I'm a big believer in just diving deep and staying really close to like the problem. Uh, Either like technical, like I'm technical, so I do want to make sure I always make sure that I stay really close to the technical aspects of things. Um, but you have to like balance like being really close to like, the technical aspects, but also like being close to the user. Like it's like I always say like you can build the greatest product like technically, that like it's amazing technically, and there's no bugs, or like there's no technical debt, and and it's 100 lines of code, and it's super fast and it's just amazing, but nobody uses it. So what? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like you have to find the right fit, that people want to use it. Uh, because there are products out there that are hugely successful. In fact, most of the products out there that are full of technical debt, and that's fine. And because that's kind of the evolution to get there really fast, and then evolve it.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at the the ecosystem today, it's kind of like we're in this startup era. There's startups growing everywhere. And because it's just so easy to get started. Like you can have an MVP. I mean, we talked about it last time. You can have an MVP in seconds, right? If not minutes. And the big challenge that comes after that, okay, so now you have something that works. It seems like it has some clients that are interested. But how do you grow this? How do you make it work? And do you feel like this is where your expertise comes in because you've seen so many? And now that there's so many startups out there, they're going to need that advice and they're going to need someone who's seen different companies do it.
Um, I think like everybody's kind of trying to discover kind of what's happening now and what we're gonna do as a human race. I think it's that fundamental.
Yeah.
Uh, like it's true that like we can build things like AI is transforming everything as we know it. Um, And I think that's a really good thing, just in general, because that's like just progress. Like, I do think that right now, like, what I can, it is true that one can create things very quickly, like products really quickly and all of those things. But I do believe that then what? So what you have now that you have this product, like there's so many things that are not yet done by AI, not yet, which is like, okay, what do we do now? What metrics do we look at? Is the team look like, because AI can tell you, hey, you know what? Look, these are the metrics you want to watch out for. But are people actually doing it? Like some of them may, are they doing it in a way are they shifting do they know how to look at that data? Like in the end, you have like humans in the middle of AIs now. I think at some point we're probably not going to have humans doing that. I think that various companies are going to be just purely run by AI. Like honestly, I think that's what's going to happen. And I don't see why that wouldn't work. But for as long as we have humans in the loop, which I advocate, I'm pro-human. I think that we should, I think that I can add some value, to optimize the way in which we look at things. I've seen, you're right. Like I've seen companies, succeed and fail, and I've been part of the failures and successes of various companies. Um, and I think that has enough. I think that has a role in companies, and I think that companies benefit from having a fresh pair of eyes to help them navigate through, especially now through like all of this data that's coming to them in various ways.
Luis, I want to end with this. You've seen a lot of founders. If you had to pinpoint one quality, just one, that tells you, okay, this makes it this makes this founder solid, or this is what makes him different, or this is why he has better chances of succeeding. What's that one quality that you look for?
I thought about this before, so so it's good that you asked me this. I was worried that I'm like, well, I don't know, but this one, I think like the quality is resilience, and so like I find that like any startup or any company can succeed, no matter what. Any idea can succeed. It's just a matter of like how long are you willing to put up with the pain? Because it will be painful. So it will be more painful. Perhaps, some startups are going to have a worse product market fit initially, uh, but that will be more painful. But if your pain threshold is high enough and you're willing to like put up with that pain and pivot and pivot and pivot and talk to your users and continue to do that for, an endless time, you can succeed. So I think that, when I talk to founders and I see that relentlessness in them, I think that's a really good quality that tells me there's a really good chance of succeeding.
Well, that's a great answer. As long as you're in the game, you still have a shot. But as soon
Right.
as you
You
leave,
don't lose unless you sell.
exactly. Well, anyways, Luis, it's always great talking to you. Thanks so much for doing this.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.